It is a truism that the wealth of the 21st century will come from science and technology and innovation. But like all truisms, everybody agrees, but often it's just the lip service that's there. There simply is not enough action on the part of governments, both in the donor community and in the developing countries, to make science and technology really work in the way that it should. For the developing countries, of course, and that's what we explain in the book, the implications are for the Millennium Development Goals, where, as we know, particularly in Africa, they're not going to be achieved for the most part. The MDG for halving poverty and hunger is only going to be achieved in Ghana, nowhere else in sub-Saharan Africa. Most of the other MDGs are not going to be achieved. But secondly, it's important for the economic growth of developing countries. And there simply isn't enough recognition of this. The only place really where you see the recognition is in China. It has something to do, I think, with the fact that Hu Jintao, the president, is an electrical engineer, and the premier of China, Wen Jiabao, is a geologist. Far too often, the mantra is, if you get the governance right and the macroeconomic policy right, then all good things will flow. You know, scientists will come out of the woodwork, just like plumbers, when you need them to fix something. But in fact, we need more than that. We need focused policies on the development of science and technology, both in the donor countries and in the developing countries. We need specific investments in particular technologies and particular potential innovations. And we also need to look out for that science and technology that, as it were, does just arrive from right field or left field. The mobile phone was the classic example. It wasn't a donor country that said, let's develop a mobile phone. We didn't go and have focus groups in Africa saying, would you like to take the phone off the wall or off the table and use it? And the sheer ingenuity and the innovation of the African people made the mobile phone work in ways that we haven't yet even begun to develop in the industrialized world. There will be more of those. We need to be looking out for them and supporting them. Far too often, and that's true today, the ears of policymakers, politicians, senior civil servants, are mostly open to the social scientists. It's beginning to shift, but that's what's been happening. Development policymakers seem to listen to social scientists or natural sciences, but rarely both. And what Jeff and I would argue is that we do need to focus on both. DFID has changed a lot in the last 5 years. But when I arrived, it seemed to me that there wasn't enough understanding of science and technology, and that's why this book began. And Jeff joined me in writing the book. It's been, I think, a labour of love. We tried not to preach, but we tried to write in a way that is understandable to the lay person. I want just finally to talk about one of the themes in the book. Running throughout the book is the notion that technologies are important because they're appropriate, irrespective of their origin or the processes that produce them. By appropriate, it means that they work, they're sustainable, they're equitable, they're cheap, there are no side effects. Perhaps the best place you can see this is in malaria, where what we have is, on the one hand, artemisinin, a drug derived from a herb that was developed by the Chinese, a herbal medicine now widely used in Africa. Bed-nets, which have now been developed in such a way that they are long-lasting by being impregnated with pyrethrum, a safe insecticide. And now we're getting the development of vaccines against malaria.
But focusing on those which we did look at, agriculture, health, and environment, we feel we can make the following observations. First, science innovation for development is not just about technological solutions. As importantly, it's about establishing a scientific understanding of problems that guides policy for development and investment. And this role for science is particularly clear today with recent advances in environmental challenges. The science that allows us to understand ecosystem function has now given us tools to value ecosystem services and to use those to make development decisions. While the growing scientific understanding of climate change has not only given us tools for mitigation and adaptation, but helped us to identify the targets around which policies and agreements need to be built. Secondly, successful science innovation for development draws on the full range of sources of science and technology. And as Gordon just mentioned, we frequently found that conventional, intermediate, traditional, and new platform technologies were all making valuable contributions to a single development challenge. And this observation itself challenges some deep-seated and extreme views. At one extreme is the naive perception of new technologies as standalone silver bullet solutions for development problems. And at the other extreme is the belief that traditional or intermediate technologies are the only legitimate, fair, and appropriate technology in a development context. As Gordon observed, a new generation of science innovators needs to replace these prejudices with the understanding that being appropriate is not about where innovation comes from, but about how useful it is. Finally, we identify that there are specific needs and opportunities for new science innovation for development, not simply for the modification and wider application of existing conventional technologies. And new platform technologies have a key role here, and those that we identify, like nanoscience, biotechnology, information communication technology, will be critical. And it will be particularly important that scientists in developing countries participate in the global innovation systems which exploit them. And that change involves training and empowering scientists who can work internationally on science information and innovation for development. And this means particularly focusing on building the scientific skills and careers of scientific partners in developing countries. Secondly, we need to strengthen science in developing countries by assisting the development of national innovation systems and their productive, equitable, and empowering links with systems in other countries, north and south, for global innovation systems. We need to ensure that there is support for new technologies, that they might generate international public goods, but also imaginative partnerships with private sector research that makes its products available for development goals. And finally, we need to raise the profile of science in society by helping governments and industry to understand the value of investing in science innovation systems, the value to their poverty reduction, their human welfare, their economic growth agendas, and to inform policy